Okay, welcome to Tab Surfing with Seven. This is my first video trying this format. Basically, what I'm be doing is just going through articles, old tabs I have from sometimes maybe a year old or something, but I have so many. I figure this is a good way to get through them all. Because some of them are like, they're good to read, but they're not very, where it's like, oh, I need to post this. So it's just interesting stuff I come across. It's going to be old news and new news. So sometimes it might be an article from today or 6 months ago, but regardless, it's still relevant information. It still happened. I mean, some of these ones, it's like a lot of the coronavirus. It'll be old, or and you probably already know it since it's been occupying all of our time and all of our thoughts because it's all the way down to our everyday level of fuckery. So like these first few articles are from Engadget. I normally don't go here, but I use Opera GX. It's like a gaming browser, so it's cool because you can leave it running and it won't suck up all your uh, RAM and CPU usage. You can limit it. It's pretty cool if you're into it. Check it out. But it'll have like a thing of free games, new and up and coming, cheap games, trailers, daily news. So daily news, I usually click tech and games. That way, when I'm reading about dumb shit about games, I can see what mainstream stuff is being put on this too, which I think is very interesting because most of this is for gamers. So these have to stick out to be put on this aggregator. So we will start with. Oh, also, yeah, if it's old, whatever. If it's a couple months old and you already know, it's cool. Not a big deal. Because some people like to put that in your face. Like, if you post, what I've noticed is if you post something within the last 3 years and it's not current, people will be like, ah, that's like 4 months ago. And no, how dare you? But then if you post something from 5 or 10 years ago about some weird shit the government did and everybody's dead and they just finally released it because they can't go to jail because they're all dead, they'll be, oh my god, I didn't fucking know that. What the fuck? Or something from 500 years ago. Oh my god, that's amazing. My mind's blown. But if the shit's from fucking November, they're gonna be like, ah, this is old. And or they'll put the date that the article was posted on. Like you didn't know that when you posted that. So if you're one of those people, fuck you. Fuck off. I hate that shit. But anyway, back on subject. This is from today, the 28th of July. Virgin Galactic Spaceship 2 cabin surrounds you with windows. Tomorrow's space tourists will be flying in style. You're greeted with this conceptual art of the cabin with all these nice windows, which we fucking know are all gonna have fisheye windows. But it doesn't matter because it's never coming out. You guys all know if you follow all this shit. Every couple years, they tell you about something, and it never comes out. And in 5 years, when you're like, "Hey, where'd that fucking money go?" Oh, we already have this thing now. So right now, I think it's like, "Oh, we're gonna build a elevator to the moon," and then it never comes out. We're gonna build a cruise ship to the moon. It never comes out. We're gonna make a cruise to Mars, and that never comes out. We're gonna make a fucking portal to go to the multiverse, and then to get all your money. So you see where it's the same shit all the time. And we already know what folks will be wearing on low orbit jaunts aboard Virgin Galactic's Spaceship 2 Unity. But on Tuesday, the company finally revealed a cabin in which they'll be traveling during a virtual walkthrough with Unity's design team. Ultimately, the interior of the spaceship was designed with one primary goal in mind, and that is to get the perfect view of Earth from space, the company said in a teaser video published earlier this month. It's a big moment because although the event may be virtual, its significance is starting to open space to everyone is very real. its significance is starting to open space to everyone is very real. There we go. Okay. Said Richard Branson. It is, which has been designed specifically to allow thousands of people to achieve their dreams of space flight safely. Somebody once said to me, the Virgin Galactic spaceship was the first one to be built from the inside out. There is a degree of poetic license in that statement, but it contains a fundamental truth. We started with what we believed would be an optimal customer experience, and then we built the spaceship around it. Oh, look at this! It's never coming out! Virgin Galactic teamed up with UK design firm Seymour Powell to develop the vehicle's interior to develop an elegant but progressive experience-focused concept. The individual reclining seats will be crafted from aluminum and carbon fiber to stand up to the sub-3 Gs generated by the vehicle's engines. Screens mounted in the seatbacks won't show the latest Vin Diesel bomb, ha ha ha, but instead will display live flight data as well as from 16 HD cameras mounted on the vehicle's exterior. Those videos and stills will also be made available to those aboard after the flight for sharing on social media with your fisheye lens filter. Astronauts who want to see the planet for themselves will be able to gaze out from any of the 12 cabin windows. Since the entire point of these trips is to let people experience weightlessness, the cabin will be covered in soft surfaces and handholds, such as the halo rim around each window. And like Virgin Atlantic flights, Unity will be equipped with mood lighting that transitions between each phase of the trip. Virgin Galactic has come a long way since a deadly crash during flight tests forced the company to temporarily suspend the project and ticket sales rides aboard the spacecraft back in 2014. After rebuilding the vehicle, Virgin Galactic successfully made its way into space in 2018. Ticket sales resumed in February of this year when the company launched its One Small Step program, wherein wealthy would-be space tourists can put down a $1,000 deposit to jump to the front of the reservation queue. Tickets were originally expected to cost around $250,000, though then CEO George Whitesides has cautioned that the price could rise sharply as development of the flight system progresses. In June of this year, Spaceship Two successfully completed its second glide test, reaching Mach 0.85 and clearing the way for powerful flight tests in the near future. Last week, Virgin Galactic announced that it had hired former Disney executive Michael Colglazier as its new CEO, replacing Whitesides, who now works as the company's chief space officer. And there you go, 179 shares of people who are like, yes, yes, we're going to fucking space. Yeah. I'm going to wear my NASA shirt. Okay. Alright, this one is from today as well. Twitter will block links promoting hate speech and violence. Repeat offenders could be suspended. 276 shares. Twitter is closing a loophole in its rules to make it harder for users to spread hate speech and violent content. The company is updating its policies to ban links to content that promotes violence and hateful conduct. Twitter already had rules in place barring hateful conduct and violence in tweets, but the policy didn't extend to linked content. So users could effectively skirt Twitter's policy by linking to content that would otherwise break the company's rules if it was posted directly. And here's their tweet. As we continue to address harmful content, we've updated our link policy. 1. Hateful conduct and violence are now linked content categories that we may block. 2. Accounts dedicated to sharing these types of links may be suspended. Full policy here. Our goal is to block links in a way that's consistent with how we remove tweets that violate our rules. We'll start taking action under these updated guidelines on Thursday, July 30th. With the new policy, which goes into effect July 30th, Twitter may block specific URLs from being shared on its platform and suspend accounts that frequently share these type of links. Our goal is to block links in a way that's consistent with how we remove tweets that violate our rules, the company wrote in a statement. So now let's run this through the Babelfish bullshit translator. Basically, they want to ban full websites that they don't like. I'm guessing today it's because of the whole Breitbart hydroxychloroquine thing. So they want to be able to just block Breitbart. That's a scenario. Because usually every time they say this, it's so they can block people from talking about the truth, not hate speech or racism or violence. They don't give a fuck about that. Because every time they say this, then they can blanket ban you on the auspices of your promoting hate speech or hate violence, yada yada yada. That's how come the whole tech purge happened a couple years ago. Like started with Alex Jones, because Alex Jones, regardless of whatever you think, whatever, it started with him, and everybody's like, yeah, fuck Alex Jones, yeah, ban his ass, and then it kept going. It just kept anybody who talks shit about Hillary. It'd be some random gamer sites or just random things making a Hillary joke, and then they're like, dude, my page got demonetized and all my stuff's about playing video games or ASMR, whatever. It was weird because I saw a compilation of people just like in shock. But if you're in the Truther group, if you're here, then if you're listening to this, then then you're all, hey, welcome to the club, bro. This has been going on for fucking 10 years. So now they want to be able to auto ban whole sites now. I think they want also to save time, because the next article they'll tell you how much they've been spending, save manpower. So if they could just block Breitbart all out, or InfoWars, or RT, or whatever the fuck thing they hate or they don't agree with, instead of having to worry about fake news, pop-ups and all that, and fact-checking, they could just block the whole fucking site. And they'll do it under this, And also, on a side note, if you talk about, because the one you always get in trouble for is anti-Semitism. If you ever post stuff about it, talk about Zionism. So it's more specific, so people will understand what you're talking about. Because if you say Jews, people don't understand what you're talking about when you say that. You gotta say Zionist. Okay, anyway. Another one. Google will ban Corona's conspiracy ads to fight misinformation. They include ads claiming that the virus was man-made. July 18th, 1,500 shares. Oh, I forgot to look at the shares for the last one. Last one was... Oh, fucking freezing. Goddamn browser. 276. Look at all these people with masks on. I am safe. I'm saving you. You're saving me. Google is amping up its fight against coronavirus related misinformation by banning ads that contradict authoritative scientific consensus about the pandemic. That means websites and apps can no longer make money from running advertisements promoting debunked conspiracy theories about COVID-19. Those include claims that the virus was created in a Chinese lab, that the pandemic is a hoax, and that Bill Gates was behind it. According to Bloomberg, Google will start enforcing the new rule next month. And in addition to blocking advertisers from creating new ads, it will use human and machine reviewers to find and take action against publishers and advertisers who break the rule. It will also ban those who repeatedly violate its new policy from using its ad platform. As Google's spokesperson explained, the new rule expands the company's policy against harmful health claims such as miracle health cures and things that promote anti-vaccination ideas on the internet. We are putting additional safeguards in place by expanding our harmful health claims policies for both publishers and advertisers to include dangerous content about a health crisis that contradicts scientific consensus. Now, here's the part pay attention to. Google announced in April that it's investing $6.5 million to fight coronavirus related misinformation in an effort to prevent false claims from spreading further. Other platforms had also taken steps to combat false COVID 19 claims. Apple is rejecting all coronavirus related mobile apps that aren't from official health organizations. Twitter is banning tweets perpetuating claims of fake cures, while Facebook is now debunking common myths about the pandemic in its COVID 19 information center. If you look on Facebook, anything, it's always popping up. Hey, take this survey, blah, 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 blah. But yeah, they're going to spend $6.5 million to fight this. To them, it's fucking beer money. But to the rest of us peasants, it's like, that really? $6.5 million? Fucking shit. This is from April 24th, 2020. Contact tracing apps are coming whether we like it or not. Look at this fucking weird ass drawing, dude. It's fucking Mr. Claw from Inspector Gadget as COVID and his COVID cat watching everybody in his Matrix fucking architect room. The fuck? The University of Oxford's Big Data Institute advised the NHS this week that a contact tracing app could help stop the coronavirus pandemic. But 80% of current smartphone owners would need to use it. Can you imagine trying to get 80% of Americans from the privacy and security aware to coronavirus truthers to download a tracking app? Gotta jab at you motherfuckers. Gotta jab at you. I mean, it would be really good if I got an alert letting me know I was near someone who tested positive for myself and the people I care about. My plan is for us to live through this, but I have massive surveillance PTSD from big tech's consent allergies, and yesterday the federal government's team used a press briefing to suggest using an injection of disinfectant into people infected with COVID-19 MBC as a deterrent to the virus. They don't understand. That's a whole nother video I'm going to do. But basically making fun of Trump because he talked about UV and disinfectant, but people automatically thought of Lysol for some reason. Plus, I think everyone sucks at security and few things are as bad as app security. I know this can be done right. I understand the security, privacy, and cultural constraints of how to make a contact tracing app successful while not trampling our human rights. But does anyone pushing us to the inevitability of contact tracing apps get it? That said, contact tracing apps are not just unavoidable. We desperately need them. They're already in use in different countries, yet implementation is slow for Western countries. Basically, we're next. Yes, yeah. COVID 1984, that's my group photo too. Contact tracing is when health workers stem the spread of a disease by locating an infected person, documenting where they went and with whom they came into contact, then finding out if those people have had symptoms and determining potential testing and quarantine. It has been used all over the world when fighting contagious infectious diseases like Ebola, which is a whole other thing. Ebola is real. Ebola is real. Right now, contact tracing with quarantines and widespread accurate testing are absolutely vital in stopping the COVID-19 pandemic. The phrase contact tracing, as we know it online, has become a catch-all for digital alternatives such as apps that reduce risk time, minimize everyone's exposure, and save lives. Gotta keep saying that over and over. Save lives. It could also save a lot of money. Our economy is bleeding out before our eyes, but it's also not cheap to implement. Contact tracing on a national level could cost in the billions of dollars and require hiring more than 100,000 people, NBC News reported. There was a Rockefeller one that said the ideal number that they think is up to 300,000 people. Every clinician in the city who cares for someone with COVID 19 and every laboratory that processes a positive test must report the case to the Department of Public Health, which is how San Francisco is building out its database of contacts. The implementation of contact tracing is labor and time consuming, hence why you need so many people. Will also be easier when nobody has a fucking job and you need to hire over 250,000 people. That's what, with our other article, up to 250,000 people to do this job. San Francisco plans to use a workforce of 140 people, including medical students from the University of California, San Francisco, librarians, and staff from the city attorney's office to go through lists of people who have tested positive for the virus and interview them. While San Francisco gears up for at least 140 people for its 883,000 citizens, on Wednesday, California Governor Gavin Newsom announced that the state is ready to train up to 10,000 contact tracers. San Francisco's health department is employing the use of software for its contact tracing. Through that software is used by the tracers themselves to track and monitor people's cases. It is not being forced on the city's population. On Monday, San Francisco's public health director, Dr. Grant Colfax, said that participation in contact tracing is voluntary and no one will be asked about their immigration status or for their social security number or bank details. Doesn't matter because they have all that shit already. That's reassuring from a privacy and anti-surveillance perspective, which is the aspect filling so many of us with crushing dread. Make no mistake, we're talking about an event, the coronavirus pandemic, creating an opportunity for a worldwide digital security and privacy apocalypse. We can be sure that the dictators and data dealers are all salivating over all that Big Brother brand toothpaste that can never be put back in the tube. Very true, but you have too much trust in them. That's probably what brought the DP3T project, a group of digital security and privacy professionals, to publish an astonishingly comprehensive report this week, the Privacy and Security Risk Evaluation of Digital Proximity Tracing Systems. In it, they plainly explain that all contact tracing apps use Bluetooth to estimate proximity between two phones, and all the system needs to do is inform the phone's owner they've been near an infected person. The system does not need to reveal to anyone who the potential contagious contact was with or when and where it happened. It's so vague if you don't think. The report goes on to list risks everyone will need to know about. That includes the potential for app makers to abuse all the data, including access to the people's social graphs, that in an all Bluetooth tracing system, a powerful antenna can trigger false alerts. Adversaries can track users, and more. The thing is, in order for contact tracing apps to work, they must be universally adopted by everyone. It would help enormously if makers of these apps address the concerns and risks in DP3T project's paper. Because contact tracing apps are working in some places but not others, and it all comes down to voluntary adoption. Again, that's what these guys suggested, but the people making it don't give a fuck. Contact tracing smartphone apps are already in use by countries including China, Germany, Hong Kong, India, Israel, Italy, Singapore, South Korea, and Taiwan, all with varying results. Australia and the UK's NHS plan to, and so do EU member states, which is why European Commission just published guidelines for EU app devs. The US is also interested. Different states are pursuing their own solutions, with around 20 different state and local governments interested in using MIT's open source Privacy by Design private kit. New York announced this week it will launch its own tri-state virus tracing program with a huge cash infusion from Michael Bloomberg. Then there's Google's Google and Apple's unholy alliance. The companies are building APIs. The actual contact tracing phone apps will come from public health orgs. The tech giants are calling it privacy preserving contact tracing, and they already hit a few snags with the UK's NHS. Apple and Google are encouraging health services worldwide to build contact tracing apps that operate in a decentralized way, allowing individuals to know when they've been in contact with an affected person, but preventing governments from using that data to build a picture of population movement in aggregate. Sure. But the policies unveiled last week apply only to apps that don't result in the creation of a centralized database of contacts. That means that if the NHS goes ahead with its original plans, its app would face severe limitations on its operation. I mean, ideally, that'd be cool if they maintained your privacy. The whole thing's not cool. I'm just saying, if we don't fall for the bullshit. Meanwhile, the U.S. federal government chose Peter Thiel and Palantir to create the HHS Protect Now single-source COVID-19 data tracking platform. Protect Now integrates 187 Palantir data sources, which according to press includes hospital capacity and inventories, supply chain data from the government and industry, diagnostic and geographic testing data. A government spokesman told Daily Beast HHS was also relying on private sector partner contributions of data. Yeah, because seamless data sharing between government and private companies always ends well. See, yeah. Palantir has already done work for the Trump administration, providing profiling tools to the Immigration and Customs Enforcement as part of the president's draconian border crackdown. And then there's Thiel's personal links to Trump. An early Facebook investor and board member, Thiel joined Trump and CEO Mark Zuckerberg for a private dinner last year at the White House, and he reportedly influenced the social media giant's policy on political ads. Point is, it's convenient for companies to argue that all the hoovering of our data they've done over the past 10 to 15 years can make them uniquely positioned to ride in on a big, white, syphilitic unicorn and save us. We just need to surrender to a deeper surveillance state while a seamless data sharing deal is made between private sector and the government. Except it won't save us, at least according to a white paper from the ACLU. Turns out COVID-19 is a very unique situation. We have spoken with engineers and executives at a number of the largest U.S. companies that hold location data on Americans' movements and locations, and generally they have told us that their data is not suitable for determining who was in contact with whom for purposes of COVID-19. ACLU concluded in its April 8th paper the limits of location tracking in an epidemic. And implementation versus adoption. But wait, let's back up to the part where I mentioned all the different countries around the world that are already using contact tracing apps with varying degrees of success. On the one hand, we've got China and Israel going full police state with invasive citizen surveillance, while countries like South Korea, Singapore, and Taiwan have balanced privacy and virus tracing. Top of mind has been whether authoritarian regimes have an edge over democracies because they can mandate top-down measures like lockdowns and digital tracking of infected people's movements and contacts. But the top and bottom performance in COVID-19 containment span the spectrum from autocratic to democratic. It's true that China is effectively flattening the curve, but so is South Korea, a vibrant democracy. Other democracies, the US, Spain, Italy, and France, are faring less well. It's no coincidence that the location seeing success with contact tracing, smartphone apps have at least two things in common. Governments behind the apps are tech savvy, and the places they're working are those with more collectivist societies. especially those in East Asia. Most of those tech-savvy governments emphasize controls on digital privacy, like South Korea and Singapore, easing issues of trust that might create avoidance. In the US, states have been fractured by the federal government and the union is splintering. States are forming coalitions and fighting the federal government for citizen survival. A contact tracing app from the federal government will never gain universal adoption for more reasons than can be listed here. That's okay, they're just screwed up anyway. Digital contact tracing for COVID-19 is inevitable, because this means mass installation of a surveillance app on everyone's phones in order for it to work. It's a moment when we can decide that fighting for survival means fighting for our future too. I hate this moment in so many ways and for so many reasons. I hate that there should be the moment that all of our privacy and security mistakes with apps, companies, and people's lives are just staring us in the face, screaming for someone to pay attention. Because this should be the promise of all this stupid technology, that when we are dying and oppressed, that we can use it to find a way and toss everyone who abuse apps and tech to harm us. Good point. There should be a contact tracing app that I want to use that I can trust, not another grubby shit show of vulnerabilities and privacy violations made by people I hate and corporations trying to make sure I have no choice. That contact tracing app would do exactly what it needs to do and no more, just as described in the privacy and security risk evaluation of digital proximity tracing apps. And we'd use it as part of the things we incorporate to get through the next part of this game's nightmare level. Another tool for our arsenal of resilience, an acceptable accessory while we shift our perspective from preoccupation with fear and loss to focus on strength and resetting our worlds. It would not sell us out, but instead help us survive and adapt. Both COVID-19 and the murderous anti-science profiteers and grifters trying to deep six our freedoms and futures. Turns out survival and adaptability are evolutionary traits. Science! Definite advantage when your country's idiot CEO is literally talking about blowing sunshine up your ass to cure the plague. Again, that is not what the fuck he was talking about. But that's going to be another video because it's going to be kind of long. Okay, now after you read all that, we'll go to this one, and then I'll go to end with that one. Okay, Google is killing its experimental social network Shoelace. The service launched last year and was only ever available in New York City. April 20th, 2020. Oh, I forgot to see the shares for that one. This one. The fucking weird ass COVID hit. 639 shares. Alright. Google's experimental Area 120 unit launched Shoelace in mid-2019 as a way to help people get together in real life. Unfortunately, the fledgling social network won't make it out of the experimental phase. The tech giant has announced that Shoelace is shutting down on May 12th. The service was geared towards people looking for group activities with other locals who share the same interest. Say, people interested in photography who want to meet up for a shoot, or those looking for buddies to see concerts with. It was only ever available for iOS users in New York City, though it never quite made its way to other regions. Based on the team's announcement on its website, the app fell victim to the coronavirus pandemic. Area 120 says it doesn't feel like it's the right time to invest further in a project given the current health crisis, and that it doesn't have plans to reboot Shoelace in the future. Google will delete all data associated with the service after May 12th, though users can get a copy of it by filling out this form before that date. I think this will probably be integrated into the contact tracing. But that's just what I think, just off the top of my head. Now, this is May 28th, 2020. Arizona sues Google claiming they illegally tracked Android users. The state said Google misled customers who tried to opt out of location tracking. Arizona has sued Google over claims that it illegally collected location data from users without their permission, according to the Washington Post. The state's attorney, General Mark Bronovich, argued that Google kept location tracking running in the background for mapping, weather, and other apps, along with searches, even if users turned the feature off. The state argued that Google made it too complicated to completely disable tracking, forcing users to dig into granular Android system settings. When consumers try to opt out of Google's collection of location data, the company is continuing to find misleading ways to obtain information and use it for profit. The state is asking the court to force Google to pay back Arizona profits earned through ads that monetize the data, as well as potential fines of up to $10,000 per violation. The Attorney General and the contingency fee lawyers filing this lawsuit appear to have mischaracterized our services, Google's spokesperson told Engadget. We have always built privacy features into our product and provide robust controls for location data. We look forward to setting the record straight. The lawsuit is the latest in a long string of legal actions against Google over privacy and other issues. Google's recently fined $1.7 billion in the EU for abusive advertising practices and $170 million by the US FTC for illegally collecting data about children watching YouTube cartoons, to name just two notorious cases. Besides Arizona, other states and the US federal government are also probing the company over privacy and antitrust issues. So right here, you got, especially when you mark that for US, you got over $2 billion fined by the EU and the US governments. On top of illegal data collection claims, Brnovich, sorry if I'm saying that wrong, argued that Google changed tracking defaults without informing the user, much less seeking or obtaining consent. The state also accused Google of uncooperative conduct, delay tactics, and general failure to comply with demands for records. Because they have so much money, they're just gonna keep you in litigation limbo, and then when you find them, they're like, well, I made trillions, so yeah, whatever. I'll give you a couple billion, no big deal. At some point, people or companies that have a lot of money think they can do whatever the hell they want to do and feel like they're above the law. I wanted Google to get the message that Arizona has a state consumer fraud act. They may be the most innovative company in the world, but that doesn't mean they're above the law. I agree, but they need to put these people in jail. Then they'll be all, oh, dude, then I won't do. Because it's like if you rob a bank and say you get $250,000, and then when you get caught, they fine you like $5,000. You're like, yeah, I'll pay the fine and then go home with $245,000. So, yeah. But it's just funny because we put all of our trust, and they're the arbiters of truth, and when it comes to speed, coronavirus, and fucking all these fucking tracing apps and all this shit. But then they get caught by the same government, and then they find them for all this money, and it's like, oh, that's cool. It's coronavirus. We have to save lives. Save lives. So, okay, that's a whole nother video to do that on. Alright, well, I hope you guys like this. Let me know if the music was too loud or any levels were fucked up or whatever, or anything. Any constructive criticism. Just don't talk shit. Just say, hey, dude, blah, blah, blah. And then I'll be like, oh, okay, I'll take that into consideration. Just don't talk shit, because just because it's the internet doesn't mean you can't be nice. Anyway, that's my first episode of Tab Surfing. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for taking the time to listen to it. I try to do this weekly, if not more, because I have a lot of tabs to go through and a lot of whiskey to drink. See ya.